everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today we'll be going over the career fair preparation element of our career fair that's happening it's happening in a few weeks. Um, this is brought on by the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, and just want to say welcome to everyone that's here with us today. To give you a little bit more context, this workshop has a couple of goals in mind. We want to prepare you for the career fair and make you feel confident as you embark in your career journey, whether you're starting out in your first job or looking to, diversify your employment. We want to help you network and build your communication skills with employers, as well as learn how to stand out on paper, not just on your resumes, but also in person. And another reminder about our career fair at LAUS College, this is going to be on May 1st. So you might have seen our flyer, floating around. On May 1st, we are hosting a career fair at West Los Angeles College. And if you need more information, we'll stick around. You can ask us more questions on what to expect and any logistical questions that you might have. Now, this event is co-hosted by a couple of community colleges in the Los Angeles region. If you belong to any of these colleges, you can reach out to their career center or career workforce centers for more information as well. So what to expect for today's presentation, a couple of things that I'll be going over. The first is what is a career fair, how to prepare before the fair and what to expect, as well as your resume. There's so much power and there's so much that goes into building a resume. We want to make sure that you highlight your skills and your experiences and your education as well. Some best practices for networking, and what to expect after the fair. So what's next, once you attend a fair, and how to follow up with employers as well. So you might be asking yourself, what is a career fair? And a career fair is generally typically the same across different organizations that host career fairs. One of them being a community college. Sometimes you might see your local community or city put on a career fair. But ultimately, a career fair is just an event connecting students with employers that are actively hiring. Some of the benefits for this career fair in specific is that you get direct access to recruiters, you get real-world networking practice, you learn about internships, whether they're part-time and full-time opportunities. And just to remind you, employers attend these fairs not just to meet you or learn more about the college, but also to recruit. So they don't want to just have their information out there. They're actually looking for folks that can be a benefit to their agency or organization. So before the fair, you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success. Now, we will be sharing a list of employers as the event gets closer. But this is a great opportunity for you to start thinking about who's going to be at the career fair, and how can I reach out to them, or how can I learn more about them before the fair. This was great, so that way when you arrive at the fair, you already know who you want to talk to. Maybe you're interested in certain employers from certain fields, such as education, health sciences, services, business. So you can start thinking about what employers are going to be here, and you can start making a list of who you want to meet with. This is going to be helpful for you to learn more about the companies. Sometimes you think, I want to work for a certain employer, but then you do your research and you feel, okay, maybe not that employer is the best fit for what I want to do or what I believe in. And you can learn more about other employers who might fit, your criteria. Or maybe you've heard of an employer, very surface level, and you never really kind of did some research. This is a great opportunity for you to learn about other employers who are out there, and maybe they align with your vision and goals in your career. So this is a great way to learn about missions, culture, location of the companies, any kind of projects or news that they've been part of, and any available roles. I always, tell folks, if you really want to learn about working for a company or agency, look at the current job descriptions and job postings that they have on their websites. And also before the fair, you want to make sure that you have a couple of questions in preparation, and we'll talk more about how to prepare yourself with the communication aspect of a fair. So let's start with the resume. So the resume is very powerful. for employers, they're reviewing hundreds, if not thousands of resumes whenever they have an active job on their website. So some tips on your resume, you want to make sure that it has a clean format. And of course, if you're at a community college, you're going to have these resources at your disposal, whether it's going through a career center, the career workforce education center, or also just talking to a counselor. So any of these resources can help you build your resume to have a clean format that is legible, digestible for employers and for HR departments, and that is tailored to the type of job that you're applying to. You want to make sure your resume also has skills, experiences, and lists your education. So if you're attending a community college, it's very important that you put on there, the college that you're attending and the major that you've declared, especially if it fits the type of job that you're applying to. I always tell students it's always good to have someone review your resume, and not just students, but also people in my life, myself included. It's always great to have another pair of eyes look at your resume so that you can get feedback, whether that's through a career counselor or someone that works in that field. It's great to ask someone to review your resume, as well as at the fair. You can always ask employers. A student actually brought this to my attention in our last fair. They actually went to employers and said, does my resume look good enough for your job or your internship? And so the employer was actually able to give them some feedback on the spot. And I think that is very valuable and great. So having a resume prepared ahead of time is going to set you up for success. Now, we've heard this before many times where students always, ask or tell us that they just feel like, in networking and preparing for a job fair, that they don't know what to say. They don't know how to talk about, their skills and experiences, and they're very nervous. So this is valid. A lot of folks feel this way as well. And so what we're trying to do with this workshop is make sure that, there are some tips that you can leave with that can prepare you for a job or a career fair, as well as build some confidence in yourself. A great strategy to practice is an elevator pitch. And this is something that even I use on my day-to-day, commutes and drives home. I kind of talk to myself, and you always have an elevator pitch for different reasons. It could be for applying for a job, speaking to a manager or an employer, or someone you want to build a relationship with. So you can utilize an elevator pitch for many different reasons. But for today's goal, we want to make sure that you have some sort of understanding of what an elevator pitch can be at a career fair, and how to leverage that pitch to get yourself out there and put yourself out there as well. So some things that you can do with an elevator pitch as a community college student, you can talk about, obviously you want to tell them your name, what school you're attending, maybe what you're studying, what's something that you've gone through that you're really good at, and how this aligns with your career interests and goals. And lastly, why you're excited to connect. So again, an elevator pitch can be practiced almost any time. I drive home sometimes, I'm like talking to myself, saying things, asking myself questions, but also making sure that I feel confident with my responses. Okay, going backwards. Okay, so here's an example of an elevator pitch. Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm a student over at LA West College studying computer information systems. I've been getting into web development and recently helped redesign a nonprofit site as part of a class project. I'm really interested in learning more about tech roles and just looking to get my foot in the door. Maybe with a company like yours that's doing cool and meaningful work. So this is a very, simple and toned down elevator pitch, but really, think about what you're great at and how, that company that you want to apply for can benefit or align with your goals in your career. Another tip that we have here is dressing for success. So oftentimes students come into our office, asking us what's the best attire, or, how do I dress for an interview? And we want to make sure that, students understand that every interview could look differently. Some might be online, some might be in person. Obviously, we want to make sure that students also have resources available in case, you don't have, the ability to buy a brand new suit or outfit. So we do encourage you that as you're thinking of dressing for success, that you learn more about your campus and resources. Some campuses have a clothes closet, or they have gift cards that they give away for students to be able to purchase or own an outfit that would be great for an interview. So we encourage you as a student to connect with your campus, maybe your career center or a resource center on your campus that can, direct you towards the right resource that you can have a great outfit for an interview. We encourage folks to dress business casual or, some kind of level of professional attire is highly recommended. This typically includes, like a button-down t-shirt, a button-down shirt, slacks, some dress shoes, a blouse, a blazer, etc. As you can see in this photo, this is someone that has like a blazer and a blouse. So there's different ways, you can style. A counselor can also always go over, what professionalism might look like. And you want to make sure that your first impression matters, right? You want to dress like you're ready for the job, like you're ready to go in there and, sit at your brand new desk or office. And you want to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success by making a first impression that is long lasting with the employer. And you want to make sure you keep it neat, comfortable, and confident. I've had students come to our office, asking us, am I overdoing it? Really it's what you're comfortable with, right? That, when you apply for a job and you're interviewing, you're thinking about, how am I comfortable with my responses? How am I comfortable with how I look and how I feel? This ultimately creates a level of confidence for you as an interviewer, but also as an applicant. So you want to make sure that throughout the process, you're keeping it neat, comfortable, and confident. Another tip that we want students to think about as they prepare for a career fair is how to master that conversation. So aside from a 30-second elevator pitch, you might have a couple of minutes with an employer, whether that's through an interview or just meeting them on the spot at a career fair. So we encourage folks to have a strong smile, make eye contact, have a gently and firm handshake. So, you want to practice your handshake with folks. You don't want to go in too strong and hurt the other folks' hands, but you want to make sure that you practice, your confidence through body language, right, and through your smile. This is a great time to also use your elevator pitch to just start a discussion. So as you're meeting with someone who could potentially give you a job, you want to make sure that you talk about yourself and have them interested in who you are. You can ask some questions such as, what do you look for in a successful candidate? Or what's a typical day like in this role, right? You can ask a lot of questions that are thoughtful and meaningful, and ultimately will have them be thinking about, wow, this person is a great candidate because they asked some great questions. They were very confident. Their body language was great. And as you're thinking about, how to master this conversation with an employer, take notes on key information and follow up with the employer as well. So this leads us into confidence and body language. So confidence is key, right? Practice beforehand to reduce the nerves that you might have. I utilize this with students. I use this with professionals. Start thinking about what is it that makes me nervous and how can I build confidence in that moment. So think about maybe your responses, your body language, how you look, how you sound. All of these things are important to think about because ultimately we want you to be successful and we want you to feel confident as you go into this situation where you're meeting with an employer. So some tips might be to stand tall, avoid crossing your arms. So, you don't want to look like you're disengaged with the employer. So as you're meeting with someone, body language and how you use your hands might be a great way for you to, really emphasize a point, an experience, or, maybe a question as well. Another way, we talked about making eye contact and smiling. A tip here might be to nod and engage during conversation. So especially if the employer, is saying something that aligns with what you want or you want to do, nod and engage with them. This allows them to know like, okay, this person is listening and I'm not wasting my time. And so you want to make sure that when you meet with an employer, you're coming off confident, authentic and genuine. And if you feel anxious or nervous at any time, it's totally okay to take it at your own pace. So that can mean taking breaths, slowing down, your tone or your speech, And it's okay to be nervous, right? Everybody is. I know that I go into certain situations where I feel nervous and I have to remind myself, okay, this is just another person. And, I'm just trying to learn more about XYZ. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to tone it down a bit and just, calm down. And then whenever you're ready to come back, you want to come off confident and like you're ready to continue the conversation. Another tip that's not on here that I tell students to do all the time is to maybe have a couple of questions, ready to go that you've practiced with your body language. So, you can talk about who you are or ask, the employer question and start using your hands, your shoulders, maybe make some eye contact. All of these are great tips to just have that body language down when you meet with an employer. So ultimately, you want to make a lasting impression. So you've talked about yourself, you've asked some questions, you're thinking about how this employer or this, agency and at this or this resource table at the fair can be a great fit for you. You want to make sure you leave a lasting impression on the recruiter or the employer. And you can do this by just being enthusiastic and curious. Again, thinking about how we use our body language to nod and agree with folks, and also, come off like we're engaged, right? Um, we talked about maybe doing some research beforehand. So if you have a list of employers who will be at the career fair or job fair, you can know more about them by doing some research beforehand, so that when you talk and engage with the employer, you're going over things that they know about, right? And might make an impression on them that makes them feel like, this person has done their research and they have a genuine interest in joining our agency. So again, you want to make sure that you show that you've done your research at some level, and maybe you might not have the answers. Maybe by doing your research, you're asking a question that they don't go over throughout their spiel to you. So this is a great way for you to also show them that you're very interested in joining their agency or organization. Um, I always ask students, collect business cards. So if you can collect a business card or contact information to follow up, that is probably one of the best practices to do at a career fair, because you do want to follow up with folks who you met, introduce them and introduce yourself to them formally. And lastly, you want to make sure that you thank them for their time, especially if they took some time out of their tabling to just meet with you individually. Ask them for follow-up, but also just make sure that you show your gratitude, and especially if you're interested in working with them or for their agency. So that way you can, make that impression that you do want to follow up with them and that you're very interested in joining their agency. So after the fair, you might be talking to a lot of folks. You might speak to, 20 to 30 employers. I've had some students that have collected, handfuls of business cards after the fair. And then they ask me, what do I do next? I have all these things in front of me. What's the next step? Well, we want to make sure that you follow up with employers that you're genuinely interested in. And this can be, through a thank you email, or maybe a phone call if you feel confident enough to just say, hey, I really appreciate our conversation. And I just want to make sure that, you remember me, or, you might want to follow up with me regarding this position that you shared. And you typically want to do it within a time frame that makes sense. Usually if you wait past 48 hours, which is like 2 business days, the employer might, they might already forget who you are, or maybe what you talked about. So you want to make sure that you do it within a short time frame that they can remember that conversation that you had with them or what you shared with them. That would be a great strategy to use. What you can also do after the fair is think about what went well. So we talked about how to generate an elevator pitch, how to think about questions to ask. Is there anything that maybe you wish you would have done differently? What can you do to improve, whether that's your conversations with the employers or preparing for the career fair. You want to make sure that you have some level of reflection that sets you up for success for the next career fair or your next engaging opportunity with an employer. What you can also do after the career fair, this is a new tip that a lot of students have told me is really helpful for them, is that once you meet someone in person and you learn more about, what they're about, what their agency is about, ask them, can I find you on LinkedIn and connect with you? This is a great way for you to also increase your network, but also think about, what are they posting on LinkedIn, right? So maybe you find an agency that is very active on social media and LinkedIn and really wants to engage with potential employees or maybe folks interested in their services. This is a great way for you to connect with them and learn more about them as well, especially on an online presence, right? So you can also follow up with them via LinkedIn as well through private messaging or just learning more about the post that they have there on their platform as well. So as a community college student, obviously you have a lot of resources at your disposal, and we want to make sure that you connect with your community college to ensure success before, during, and after career fair. So we encourage you to get connected with your campus and its resources. The Career Center is a great place to start. Every community college might have a different structure for career centers, but ultimately a career center at your college can do the following. They can help you with a resume, so they can help you build, start thinking about what to put on a resume, maybe some edits as you're starting to apply for more jobs and where to send your resume to. Career centers can also help you with mock interviews, as well as how to prepare for an interview. So that is a great resource to do. I always encourage students to do mock interviews before and after a career fair, just so that they can kind of see where they're at, engage, what should I do differently, or what can I add into my responses. A career center is also great for one-on-one preparation, whether it's through a career counselor or a career specialist. Someone can help you on an individualized basis to just learn more about, what your skills, strengths, and interests are, and how the college can help you reach those goals as well. Now, through the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, or LARC, we can also help you with our regional events that we put on. So we do have our logo throughout this presentation. So whenever you see our logo, just know that these are events and these are workshops that really want to help you find your career pathway, but also reach attainable goals. So whenever you see our logo, just know that LARC is here to support you as well. And if you ever need any additional support, you can always reach out to us. Or LARC as well, and we'll connect you with the right folks on your campus. Some examples of tools and resources that career centers might have. LinkedIn is a great resource to use to get connected to employers, to build your network, to talk to other folks who might be in similar jobs, and to also stay connected with your peers. I encourage my students to always invite their peers or their friends to join LinkedIn as well, so that they can build their network as well and advocate for each other. College Central Network, this might be a job board that's online on your campus, as well as Handshake. We use Handshake and LARC. So if you have any questions on how to utilize these online job boards, you can always reach out to your career center or to LARC as well, so that you can have some more information on how to look for jobs, how to follow up with employers. And I'll say this for Handshake. Handshake has a great blog as well, where they have a lot of tips and strategies for students like yourselves or anyone who's looking for a job on how to optimize and put yourself in a position for success. And just some final reminders here, and we'll stick around if anyone has any questions. We do have our fair coming up. I think it's West LA College, not LA West College. My apologies. But our career fair is going to be on May 1st. That's not a Wednesday, that's a Thursday. So I apologize for that as well. But we want to say thank you for joining us, and that you have all of our support. And if you have any questions, we'll stick around as well.